So, since we don't have a lot of time, what do you want ladies want to discuss? You'll have to jump right in so that we don't waste any time at the beginning, kind of wondering if anybody's gonna say anything. So anyway, it's good to have you all here. I'm glad that you're here. We'll probably get a few more ladies on, but I think our Fridays have become cozy and nice. I like it. Our Marco Polo group has become really quiet these days. It's interesting. It just ebbs and flows. It'll be crazy where you're thinking, I cannot keep up with this. This is nuts. I got to stop doing this. And then it'll just be crickets for a while. So we're in the cricket phase right now. So, all right. How have you been this month? What have you been doing? What kind of things are you doing to warm your heart? And how's that working for you? Melissa?
Hey. This 2 weeks ago, I think. So storytelling is this month, and it's not a forte of mine, but I sing to my kids a lot. But my youngest came up to me one day and said, "Tell me a story," and I'll read them stories, but I don't often tell them stories. And so he snuggled up next to me, and I started telling the story of the Three Little Pigs because that's one I know. And
Yeah,
so I started telling the story, and then my other kids came in and mingled around, and I was like, let's make this interesting. So I started adding words they weren't familiar with into the story that they were familiar with, and I'd add a word and they'd be like, wait, what's that word? And I'd say, well, how are you going to find out? And they ran and got dictionaries and thesauruses and started trying to find words in there. And my oldest is 8, so we're not super dictionary users at this point, but it became more and more fun to try to figure out what mommy was going to say in advance and learn all these big words mommy was using. It got to the point where they were like, make it go longer, mommy, make it go longer. And they just had so much fun pulling out these dictionaries and learning all these different words that aren't in the normal story because it's, a little fairy tale. But to the point where I finished that story, and the next day they came in and said, is there another story? We want another story, mommy. We got the dictionaries out. And they think it's so funny. And so I switched the story around a little bit to make it interesting, but mostly they just loved all the new words that they didn't know and looking them up. And oh, the kids' dictionary doesn't have it. Let's find the big dictionary. And
I love that, Melissa.
And so that's been super fun because I don't have to learn a new story per se, but they're really actively engaged in the storytelling and learning. So that's been fun. And now they're trying to write their own stories with big words, which is excellent.
It's so good. And I think that's one of the things that people sometimes get confused about. They think I can't introduce some of these stories to my kids because the vocabulary is too big for them, too advanced for them. But I think that's the thing that causes children to be very excited about a story, is they get to hear and then use big words. I remember I thought that was so cool when I used big words when I was a kid. That's one of the reasons why I love Beatrix Potter stories, because of the vocabulary. There are really wonderful and fun words in those stories. So just throwing them in the stories that you're telling, I love that you had that thought to do that, Melissa. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, so it just makes the regular stories that we repeat more interesting and engaging for them, and then they want to be more engaged, and it's not very hard for me.
Yeah, well, and it's really truly going to make it more interesting or fun for you too, because it won't just be the same. You'll at least be engaging your brain as you're trying to think of some more creative ways to share those stories. So I love that.
That's storytelling success this month.
Yeah, yay, good job. That's awesome. Okay, anybody else? That's so good. That's a great thing to start off on, Melissa. Thank you. Mercedes.
My storytelling success doesn't have anything to do with dictionaries. We started a long time ago telling our little 4-year-old dreams at bedtime. She calls them dreams, except they're stories. And, you know, dad usually makes up a story about like what happened during the day. And I was kind of doing the same things, but then, you know, storytelling month came and I thought I should try and tell her an actual story, like a story that she is familiar with, but that I'm telling her without, you know, seeing pictures in a picture book. And I've read to her stories and had her just, you know, imagine them in your mind. You know, she's like, are there pictures? And I'm like, no, there's none. You know, a lot of the forgotten classics don't have pictures, you know, so I'll open it up like there's no pictures. So you have to see them in your mind.
Mhm.
And so I've already kind of worked with her a little bit about trying to imagine what she's hearing. But so a while ago, like last week, probably, I decided to, for her bedtime story, tell her Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And we had a picture book of Goldilocks and the Three Bears that I had for my older children. My oldest turns 18 in a couple of months. So I've been reading that story to children for a really long time. And so I thought, you know, okay, I can handle this one. Like it's in my brain well enough that I can just kind of fake it. And she asks for that story now every single night. She wants to hear it every single night. And if I change one of the like things or I leave something out, she's like, no. And then they set their spoon down. They have to set their spoon down, Mom. This porridge is too hot. Then he sets his spoon down. But they just get really interested. And now she likes to pretend that she is Goldilocks, that she's the little girl laying in the bed and the bears are staring over her. And all of a sudden her eyes pop open and runs away as fast as she can. So she's just getting really engaged. And then today she has curly hair. And I always talk about Goldilocks with, you know, golden curly hair. And so today she's like, my hair is curly, so I'm going to go find some bears and I'm going to play Goldilocks. And it's just cute to see them really like internalizing stories, because the stories are what are going to get them through, you know, their hard things.
And that is so true. And it's what I love that you are learning from this, and all of us are going to benefit from it, is that it's one story. It's just one story that you learned and had to retell. And with that one story, you've created all of this magic for your daughter. And I just love that. And I love all of the things that are going to then come from this, like her playing make believe and
Right.
playing, you know, going and getting teddy bears or something and acting out the story. I love that. That's awesome. It's not hard. We're led to believe that the things that are going to make a huge difference are the hard, very involved things that we've got to do a lot of planning and preparing and things like that. And it's the little simple things. I'm over and over. I don't know why, because I don't learn things very quickly, but I continue to be surprised and amazed when my children tell me the things that they remember that they thought were so awesome from their childhood. And it's the little things. I think, are you kidding me? It was that? Wow. Why did I spend all this time worrying about and fretting over all the things I wasn't doing? Because the spending time engaging with them, those things make such a huge difference. And you can do the same thing over and over again for quite a long time. I love that. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Cadence.
Okay, so I'm not sure what the initial question was, but I just wanted to share some success that I've been having with my son. So he's been coming home from school and being really grouchy, and there was just a lot going on and he was really tired. So at the end of the day, he was just saying all sorts of mean things. And I've been reading Gordon Neufeld? Is it? Gordon Neufeld, yes. Anyway, I've been reading his book, Hold On to Your Kids, and I skipped to like the end. I'm still reading the beginning, but I want to know the what to do stuff, so I skipped to that part. And I've been doing some of the things. And so one of it was connection before direction. So I realized that I have not been connecting with my kids after school, like eye contact, getting them to smile or talk or something between us. He calls it collecting our kids. That has to happen before we give a direction. And so I tried a bunch of it yesterday. And so I was really happy with how it worked. That, for example, he was really grouchy, back to my son being really grouchy last night. And so I thought, I need to go pull out Bramley Hedge. And so I pulled out Bramley Hedge and I went up in his bed, on his bunk bed, and I laid down next to him, read him Bramley Hedge. And it just melted everything. And he was just so much better and said, Mom, can you read me another one? So it wasn't being told by heart, but the story softened his heart enough that he could stop being mad at me and stop saying mean things and go to sleep. So then the other thing that I wanted to share about the connection before direction. So it's just so hard to get them to stop playing with Legos and put them away and brush their teeth and go to bed. Every night it's the same struggle. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. And one of the examples was saying, oh, wow, you're having so much fun with that. Like saying something that you can see about the kid that's like engaging them. And then saying, now it's time to brush your teeth. And so I tried that, the connection first, and then saying what I needed him to do. And it worked. It worked. I was so happy. Anyway, just little successes. It was so awesome. He got up and went and got his pajamas on and brushed his teeth. And he was trying to get his brother to go and do it too. And it's just little tiny steps that make a huge difference in our lives that aren't hard to implement because it's just a little thing, and just keep trying to do that little thing. It was just so helpful. So that's what I want to share.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you jumped in and remembered that you had this resource. And I love that you went to the end of the book and started the how-to. I don't know how many of you have read How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. And he talks about that. You thumb through, you look at the stuff, you figure out whether you want to read it or not. You can go anywhere you want in that book. You don't have to go from the beginning to the end. So that book gave me freedom because I was front page to the end, couldn't put it down even if it was horrible. So I love that you did that. And then that you went and tried this stuff out. You used it and you experienced success with these tiny little changes. I love that. Good for you. And that just feels so good as a parent when you start to feel like, hey, wait, I'm the parent in this situation. They
Yes.
actually listened to me or something, responded.
Yes, especially because they're in public school. And so I just feel so concerned about it, about losing. I don't want to lose that connection and that he calls it parent oriented versus peer oriented. And so I'm really trying to work on this before it becomes a problem, so that we have a strong relationship.
Okay, so on that note, a book that you would love to read, Cadence, and I think all of us could benefit from is The Little Lord Fauntleroy. It is, have you read it?
It's so good. It's
All
so
right.
good.
So what do you learn from that about a parent's influence?
It was just so strong. The mother and the father were just so loving and good people, and just lived that way in their home, that's what their child became and wanted and was around everyone else who, when he wasn't around his parent, and just thought of his mom all the time, what she taught him and what would please her. And it was so beautiful.
Yeah, I am loving it. I'm loving it. I haven't finished it, but I'm loving it. And I love that he's 7 years old. So it's not like it was a lifetime of parental influence. I mean, the parental influence continued, but at 7 years old, he was manifesting all of these wonderful attributes. And like you said, they weren't leaving him just because he wasn't right at his mother's side. These were things that had become who he was, and it was just her kindness and her mother, I mean his mother and father's kindness, and the fact that they were good, genuinely good people. Okay, and Melissa shared with us there's a movie. They're enjoying watching the 30s movie of that book after they read it. That is fabulous. I'm going to look that up because I didn't know. So Little Lord Fauntleroy is the book that we were talking about. And that is a Frances Hodgson Burnett book. So that's Little Princess, Secret Garden, The Lost Prince, and more. I was looking up and who knew? Not me.
So I have a question about that book. I haven't read it. I just barely learned about it from all of you. So is that one that you read to your children or read to yourself? And then, I mean, we could probably do either, right?
Yeah, I think first yourself, if you have the time. If you have the time to do that, and I would suggest that mothers could make more time for books. You know, put down the phone and read. And read snippets here and there. You're going to benefit from little snippets, and you would get the idea of the book. And then you don't, I mean, just read a little bit so you get an idea of it, and then go and read to your children. Read those books.
Oh,
And Kaden
I
said
did
she
find
read
that
it.
little. Sorry, she just asked us in the Forgotten Classics, and I did find it. It's in one of the other ones. I don't remember, like the Sunshine series, I think.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I love that series.
Yeah, it's been fun. I
By the
I
by.
read Understood Betsy. I heard about that book, so I checked that one out from the library and read it. And now I'm like, oh, and I want my kids to listen to it. And I was like, oh, it's part of the Forgotten Classics. I didn't even know.
Yeah,
So I
and
returned
so
the book.
The Secret Garden, Little Princess, Little Lord Fauntleroy, The Lost Prince, all of those are ones that you really could just start reading them to your children. They're absolutely accessible for your children, and they're lovely stories, great examples for your children to hear about. Really good. So yeah, if you feel like I don't have the time to kind of peruse it myself, just go for it. Jump into it with your kids. I think. I mean, I love the idea of you doing it first for all the good you can get out of it. But as you're sitting there reading to your children, I think that sometimes you get even more because you have these warm feelings about what you're gifting to your children. The thoughts that are there, the examples that are there, and maybe as a mother with that mother heart, maybe that is even more important as I'm thinking about it now.
You know, I decided to check out some Aesop Fables books because they're short.
Mhm.
And so I've been reading some of those to my kids this week. And I read one, and my husband was like telling what the moral was, and I'm like, no, you're not supposed to say it. Just let it sink. It's like,
Right.
why? And I'm like, because it's just better if you just let the lesson sink into them, let them figure it out themselves. It was funny.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. And you know, so many of those morals, they were added after the fact. And so it depends on what book you're looking at, who wrote the morals that are supposedly attached to those fables. So, and I agree with you. Let it sink in and let them come to their own conclusions about that and apply it to whatever is going on in their lives that they can connect to that story. That's so good. Other thoughts? Man, everybody is so busy. We've just always got so many things going on. I love that you make time to be here. As I'm watching Lindsay and her husband and her kids running around, getting ready, getting ready for mom to leave for the weekend. That's a big thing. That's a hard thing.
Can I just say
Awesome.
one more thing about these old books, the
Yeah.
Sunshine series? I just love how I feel so many emotions reading these books. One of them is just this strong desire to be like the good characters. And the second one is that when something like a death happens, like the father dies, or like Mother Carries Chickens, we started that book and it starts with the father dying, and you're like, what? No. And you almost become a part of the family. It's like it's happening to you. And I get emotional reading it because I'm imagining my husband dying, you know, and what I would do and how our life would change, and how I would want to be like Mother Carrie if my husband died in this situation. And so it's not unpleasant to feel that sorrow when the father dies. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a really good thing to feel when and reading it. I like feeling real emotion. I don't know why.
Mhm.
Even if it's something that's touched me, like if a parent dies and then your parent has died and you're just like, oh, this is so real to me because I've experienced this. Or or this is so real to me because I'm imagining experiencing it. I think it's so good for us. It's so good for our souls. I don't know.
I love that you shared this, Cadence. And I would love for other moms to chime in about that, your thoughts about that, because I agree. I think I think it's dangerous to live in a world with no emotions or with all these fake emotions or these big giant reactions to everything. My husband and I have been talking about how it's crazy when you pop into like any of the streaming services and there are advertisements about what's out right now and everything is so dramatic, all of the things. But I think, are you really feeling anything? Are you really connecting to anything that's real or that matters? And I wonder if that's kind of part of what we feel when we read these stories and we're connecting with a real person and their experiences, or a genuine family and the things that are going on in their lives, the hardships, and then the oh, I can't think of words anymore. But having successes, you know, through or after those trials, the things that they're learning and growing through all those things. Yeah, and feeling what they're feeling, going through those things. I loved The Lonesome Gods for that. The Lonesome Gods, it's a Louis L'Amour book. It's a historical fiction, and he only wrote 2 historical fiction books. But they're so good. That one is so good for helping you really experience a life through another person's experiences, and watching them take the things that they learned from their parents and the things that they learned from good books that were read to the main character when he was a boy, and using that to get through these trials and problems. And I think that was really one of my first experiences as an adult of connecting back to my younger person, you know, who loved, the younger me, who loved getting into stories, loved living life through a different character and experiencing those things and trying to figure out how I could be more like that. I love this idea, Cadence, of aspiring to the responses, the character or the attributes of these people that we're reading about in these stories. Anyway, I've talked for a long time about that. Any thoughts from any of you about those things? Mary, you're muted. Unmute.
I thought I muted. Okay.
Oh,
And in the
what you
Christmas
expressed-
stories. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
You want
sorry.
Melissa or me? Who?
So we'll go Mary, then Melissa. I think there was a delay, so.
So in December, I found the Christmas stories
Mhm.
that were in the Forgotten Classics, and I read it's like the story of Saint Nicholas, or the Adventures of Saint Nicholas. And at the end, when he died, I was crying as I was reading it to my kids, because you know we'd had this whole adventure with him, and it was, I don't know, it was just kind of, I guess, nice for them to see me cry, I guess, in a story, and so that's what I wanted to share.
Right. Having your children see your responses, your reactions. We teach them so much through that. Thank you for sharing that, Mary. Melissa?
yeah, there was a delay. Sorry about that.
No worries.
What you expressed, Cadence, is like has been proven. There's a study in 2006 that showed that people that read fiction have more empathy because they get in a character's head and get to experience what they're experiencing and from their eyes and thoughts and whatnot. And so that readers of nonfiction do develop, express, have more empathy.
Very interesting. Isn't that interesting? And I think about people that I know who read a lot of nonfiction, and kind of, that's interesting to think about. I'm supposed to have one person in mind, and I think that is so absolutely true. And I love that you can connect with other people through a book. You can make these friends. You can learn about them through nonfiction or even a fictional story, but really engaging with the characters as if they were real people. And I think a good storyteller can make these people real, and we can have make genuine connections with those people in the stories. Can anybody think of some examples, somebody else from a story that you just think, oh, just really connected with that person. I feel like I want to get to know that person, you know, and they're not even real, or an author that brought those people to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Hi, Melanie.
So this morning I've been driving for 2.5 hours already. I have 7.5 hours more to go today. So I decided to put some recordings from Belmont on my phone to listen to. So I've been listening to the first few chapters of the story Liberty, which is recorded for this month, and it's been really fascinating. They give a lot of background from you know, like 1000 and 1300 and 1400 stuff so far. Background working towards liberty, and all these people who gave their lives and did remarkable things trying to progress freedoms for people. And I've been reading about that interplay with the Catholic Church, which has been really fascinating. I didn't know all of the interrelations to that degree with the Catholic Church and the English government and Bohemia and stuff. Anyway, so I've been reading or listening to the story of John Hess and Wycliffe and their martyrdoms, and I cried when John Hess was killed, and they just really went through, and it was just a very descriptive scene of, you know, thousands of Catholic leaders. They're condemning this man who is the actual humble, good person who is trying to condemn the hypocrisy amongst the other people there. And anyway, it was really touching to hear of his story and of his martyrdom. And I was like, what's his name? I gotta remember that, because just listening to it is a little harder, hearing all of these different names mentioned. It's like I gotta burn that in my mind so I can learn more about it.
Right. Oh, I love that, Melanie. Thanks for sharing. And, you know, don't discount the time listening. Yes, it's fabulous when you can read or listen while you're sitting at a table, and you can notebook, you can write the things down so they stay there. They're more permanent. But when that's not what you have the time to do right now, being able to listen is so good. I love that you downloaded those so that you could listen to them on your trip, Melanie. And ladies, Lindsay and I might get to meet up with Melanie later today. We're hoping, because Melanie is going down to Pasadena to pick up her harp, which is so cool. She's been learning the harp. She's been taking lessons, and she's going to get her harp. And the place that Lindsay and I are going to meet Marley and all the other grandmas is there in right next to Pasadena. So we're hoping that we get to meet up, because Melanie was going to stop in and see us in Bakersfield on her way home. And we said, we're not going to be there, but we're going to be right there where you are. So we're hoping. So cross your fingers that works out for us today. Okay. Any other thoughts about people you've read about, ways you've connected, how that's been a blessing to you? I think Lindsay was maybe going to say something. Were you?
I was going to try, but my kids are all excited. But I really connect with Jo from Little Women, and then when she starts her school in Little Men, like just her calm way of teaching and training those boys in that school. I'm getting a call or something. There we go. I just always think of her when I'm like, there's chaos around me, but what can I do to redirect and to love and teach? And I love Mrs. Bear. Like, just love her. And to me, she's like real, like she's like one of my mentors. Like, I learned so much from her. So
I know, that's kind of a funny thing, because as we talk about like the 5 people I want to meet in heaven, ideas like that from that book. I love that book. And then that other one that I started reading, I need to pull that out again, by S. Michael Wilcox, again about people that he wants to meet, I can't remember. I think he picked out 10 or 12 people that he had learned about that he wants to meet in heaven. Sometimes I'll think, yeah, and I want to meet, and I'll think, oh wait, That's just a character in a book, but they're so real to me. So I love that you have that same connection. And then how fun. No wonder you love doing Pinehurst Academy, Lindsay, because you get to start your own little school, just like Joe. That's super fun. I was thinking about how much fun it would be to have a school for boys. That's as much as we do the Pinehurst Academy for young ladies, and that's great and everything, but I think I would so much more easily relate to boys. I would go to
It's in the
to
works.
boys camp like any day before. I'm 10 times before I would go to girls camp.
Yeah, I love both. I love that we were all like, that boys and girls are so different and they were given these different attributes and talents that it's just so cool. I just love it. But so I love both. I love seeing the young ladies, and I already have in my head we're gonna have a little school for young men too. So it's in the works in my heart. And my boys are like, when do we get to do this, Mom? When do we get to do this? And I'm like, pretty soon. Like, you've got to get older, and then we'll start it, and it'll be good. So I can see it happening, and I am so excited. And I will learn so much from Jo and her little school.
Right. I love it. And then how many of you have taken out Farmer Boy when your kids are rebelling against doing jobs around the house, taking care of their responsibilities? And my kids were like, oh, when I would pull that book off the shelves.
Or I think of little Britches, like the father and I were ranchers. Like that one, I always think of him too, because same kind of thing. He just doesn't want to do all this hard work, but he learns so much and he respects his father and he sees his father's hard work. And it's
Or
just
Laddie.
Cool.
Laddie was kind of magical that way too, helping children have a different, better, more positive attitude about being part of a family, having responsibility.
I think the thing that's interesting too about all of those is that they're just really simple. Like there's no like big extreme plot twist or like villain or like they're not these elaborate cool stories. They just show the simpleness of home life and family life and the day-to-day and the chores and the dinner time, and yet they're so powerful. So again, that's small and simple things.
Right. Doesn't it come back around to that every time? We need to hold on to that and remember that, because there are so many other messages we get that it's got to be more, it's got to be better, it's got to look a certain way, and that's just not true. You are doing such a good job with the small and simple things that you're doing. It's just so good. So good. Okay, does anybody else have something that they want to share? Something they just feel like, I want to get this out. I need to share this. Not Lincoln though. Just kidding. I actually would love to hear from you, Lincoln, if you have something you want to share. All your kids are always welcome to share if there's something that they think, oh, I don't know. But you're all welcome here.
I have you in my ear, so I was like translating and telling him what you were saying. And
I wondered, I thought
was like,
just in case.
But I was telling him like, are there books that you really just have like you've really loved? And he's one of my nonfiction kids. He loves to just read biographies. So he's like, I really love Louis Braille. Like so he really like, he just likes to learn about people and their hardships, and those are things that touch his heart. So it's kind of fun to see that.
That's awesome. And because of Lincoln, I want to read that, because that came up in Pinehurst Academy for Young Ladies. Lindsay shared that book, and it was one that that Lincoln had really liked. So that's awesome. Thanks, Lincoln. Okay. Melissa, were you popping on to share?
I was just going to show this is on my couch next to me.
Nice. Oh, tell Lincoln we've got it right here. That's awesome. Oh, amazing, huh? Just so amazing, the things that people have done. And once you get out there and start learning about things, my goodness, you would never have enough years to learn about all the things that you'd be interested in learning about. Oh, I love it. Thanks, Melissa. Okay, well, ladies, we're going to, as I said, we're going to end a little early today because Lindsay and I are getting ready to leave, and we're going down to have our weekend with the other grandmas. And I don't really know what's going to be accomplished with us all getting together. I'm not sure. I think we're going to have a good time though, and we are definitely going to enjoy the Huntington Gardens and Library tomorrow. That is such a beautiful, really wonderful place to go. I'm excited about being able to bring new friends that haven't had that experience and share it with them. So wouldn't that be fun if we could do that someday? If we could all meet there and go through the gardens or somewhere else, but someplace that we could get together and be together. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. Thanks for continuing to look for ways that you can improve your lives and bless the lives of your family and your friends by warming your own hearts, looking for the beautiful things because they are out there. We are surrounded with beauty and goodness. So shut out the negative. Just, it's made to seem so loud, but if you can just turn it off and open your eyes and your heart to the beautiful things, you ladies are proof of that. You have seen how that can transform you and create in you a new heart and help with your relationships, help with your relationship with your spouse, your children, your friends, your family. All of those things can get better little by little as we warm and nurture our hearts. So I encourage you to keep doing that. And then we'll get together next Friday and talk about these things some more. Thanks for being here. Sorry we had to cut it short, but thank you for understanding. Bye-bye.